All right, what was the most critical information in the Shanahan Lynch presser? Well, we'll get to that next, but we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out, Pig and a Pickle. They're in Emeryville and they're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both locations from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check it out. Get the brisket chili. The potato chips cooked in the beef fat are amazing as well. Only available in Marin County. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. All right, let's talk a little bit about the presser that involved Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch on the eve of training camp, or I should say on the day before training camp begins in earnest down in Santa Clara. They hit a lot of topics. Darrell Luter Jr. is going to start on the PUP list because of a knee bruise, a bone bruise that he suffered in the OTAs. Mitch Wishnowsky was lifting and wrenched his back, and he's going to probably start the camp on the NFI list. That was one of the revelations that came out today. And they talked about Nick Bosa. The contract is not been agreed to. It's going to be a historic deal. And, you know, he's holding out. And that's probably a good thing because they can't afford to lose him. And anytime you're going live, you could potentially lose a player. So he's holding out. They're not worried about it. He's not worried about it. And that's eventually going to get done. So there were a lot of, and also Trey Lance is in a very good spot, according to Kyle Shanahan. He said he had a really good OTA season. He likes the adjustments that Lance has made. He likes the work that he's done. And, you know, he feels real positive about Lance. The other mention that I thought was interesting, it's pretty obvious the Niners really like Sam Darnold. And it's really obvious that they feel like Brandon Allen had a great OTA season. So the 49ers are definitely fortified with depth at quarterback going into the 2023 season. All of these things are vitally important and interesting. But the biggest revelation of the presser, without a doubt, surrounds Brock Purdy. And that Brock Purdy is a full go. He's not going to begin on the NFI list. He's not going to begin the camp on the PUP list. He is a full go. And they're going to baby him. They're going to bring him along slowly. They're not going to rush him. They're going to take their time. They're going to ease him into it. They're not going to try to put too much stress on that elbow. If anybody, they're going to have to back Brock off from wanting to play because he wants to be out there every single day. And they're just going to try to, keep him calm and just remind him, hey, Brock, last year you didn't get a ton of reps in camp and you played really well. So they're going to try to keep his reps down. They're going to try to ease him into it. I'm sure they're going to baby him. If there's any setbacks at all, we're going to hear about it. But they've got a game plan, and they made it perfectly clear today. They've got a game plan. They've got a plan for how they want to go about it. It's not like they're just going to throw them out there and, well, we'll just see. That's not going to happen. They've got a plan for how they want to bring him along, and they're going to ease him into it. Okay, so that's really, really good stuff. But the question that I asked, and, I asked John and Kyle, I said, is there, based on what you've seen from Brock, has he lost any velocity on his football? And that's a big one. He went to Jacksonville. When I watched Brock Purdy at Iowa State, he was very successful. But I was not happy when the Niners drafted him because I viewed him as a quarterback that didn't have NFL requisite arm strength. He threw the ball relatively softly at Iowa State. I thought when I watched him, and I watched a lot of his games, and he had success, and they won a lot of games, and there was a lot to like. But it didn't look like he had what I would describe as requisite arm strength. And ultimately, he didn't. The average NFL quarterback throws about 54 miles an hour. And Brock was throwing, 48 to 50 miles an hour when at Iowa State. And so what my eyes told me added up to the actual measurables. He was not throwing the ball with the kind of velocity that he needs to be successful in the NFL, in my opinion. So when I heard the draft pick as Mr. Irrelevant, I wasn't going, yeah. I was like, really? They went for a quarterback that doesn't have good enough arm to really be a starter in the NFL? But after that college football career, and if you watch his college tape and you say, I saw him at Iowa State, he didn't have good enough arm strength. Well, he didn't. And he went to Jacksonville and he worked with these guys on his mechanics and maximizing everything that he has, and engaging his lower half and working on every bit of his throwing mechanics. And in the process of doing that, he picked up 5 or 6 miles an hour on the fastball. And when he came to camp, he was throwing the ball more like, instead of 48, 49 miles an hour, it was more like 55, 56 miles an hour. Instead of being below NFL average, it was slightly above NFL average. And while a lot of people would say, wow, you're putting a lot of credence into something that seems very insignificant, it's not insignificant. The windows in the NFL are small. You have to be able to throw the ball in those windows. And to do that, you have to have a certain amount of velocity on your ball. Playing quarterback is about processing and accuracy and timing. But within that structure, you have to throw the ball at a certain speed to get it there to elude NFL defenders. And my eyes told me that his arm strength was not quite good enough at Iowa State to play in the NFL. But he goes to Jacksonville before the draft. He works with these guys. He finds 5 or 6 miles an hour on the fastball. He showed up in Niner camp looking like a guy who threw a solid NFL ball, slightly above average as far as ball speed. And I really believe that it had a profound impact on his success. And I asked Kyle and I asked John, I said, well, okay, now he's had the elbow surgery. Now you're saying he's back and ready to roll. Okay, that's great. But what about his ball speed? How fast is he throwing the ball? Because if he lost 5 miles an hour on his ball speed, now he's back to maybe he can't fit the ball in those tight windows. Those passes that last year were completed, maybe this year are interceptions. He doesn't have a Joe Flacco, Terry Bradshaw kind of an arm. He's got requisite arm strength. And that's really all you need to be in the NFL. Because as Alex Smith said the other day with Matt Mayoko up in Tahoe, and I'd encourage anybody to go check out that interview. A great job by Matty, and I told him as much today. Alex Smith crystallized exactly what it really means to be an NFL quarterback. You can talk about height. You can talk about arm strength. You can talk about weight. You can talk about 40 times. It comes down to, can you process what you see pre-snap and post-snap? Can the ball come out consistently on time and with accuracy? And in Alex's mind, Brock checks all those boxes. And in Alex's mind, he believes it's sustainable. I do as well. I totally agree with Alex Smith. I think Brock processes well. I think he's definitely accurate enough, and I think his timing is impeccable. So, and I think it's sustainable. So all these people that have pushed back on me this offseason saying, you're a big Purdy fan and this and that. Yeah, I am a big Purdy fan because I don't think what he did last year was accidental. I think it's something that he can replicate going forward. But the big question was, how much velocity would he lose on his ball after the surgery? So I asked that question during the presser to Shanahan and Lynch. And Shanahan made a funny joke about Rookie of the Year. And he's like, I was hoping he would be like the kid from Rookie of the Year, where he came back and suddenly he had a rocket for an arm. And everybody laughed. But then John Lynch followed up and said, you know what? We put the GPS monitors on him, and the guys who do that stuff said there hasn't been any velocity loss, that he's right there with his velocity from a year ago, and things look good. And that is the biggest information that came out of that presser. We can talk about all these other things, but if Brock Purdy knows how to play quarterback, we know that. The big question is it sustainable? And it absolutely is, as long as he has not lost arm strength. And when Lynch came out and told me, answered my question and said, you know what? We put our GPS trackers on him. The guys who are in charge of that said that he's right there where he was a year ago. That, to me, checks the final box. That little revelation, that one sentence from Lynch was the biggest moment of the presser. Has Brock lost any velocity on his football that you guys can tell since the surgery?
We're watching from afar. He's easing into it. So we're not asking. We haven't seen his max velocity. I'm not trying to see that yet. It'll be back to how it was. I was hoping for like a Rookie of the Year type thing. You see that movie when you're younger.
Right.
Come back all of a sudden, like the fastest think it's going to be the same. We got to see him in person a little bit more out there with players and stuff.
And I know the data says no. They had it. They have the GPS wearables. These guys all wear these days, and it's good.
All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check out Pig and a Pickle in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Get the brisket. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.